Hello guys, it's Aiden from Gamers Class. Today I'm going to be continuing my carry climbing guide series, where in today's video I'm going to be covering Archon to Legend. So before we get into the video, just a little bit about how I'm going to do the video is basically I'm going to be looking at a replay here of a Archon player, and I'm going to be highlighting some of the important points I think that can be very useful for Archon players, specifically as this person is a Archon player, but obviously these tips are also going to help in other ranks. It doesn't just apply to Archon, it also applies to lower and higher, but it's especially going to be helpful if you are in Archon. So without further ado, we'll get into the video here.
If you like this kind of content, go to gamersguys.com. For just $10 a month, get your replays analyzed, watch masterclasses with pro players, join weekly coaching sessions, win prizes, and more with our Supreme Dota 2 membership.
And actually the first point I'm gonna actually cover here is the right at the start of the game, right? Even before the game starts. And again, this is something I see at a lot of ranks, even higher ranks. People make this mistake very often, and it's usually a very obvious mistake, and it's also a very easy one to avoid doing, and that is obviously the rune fight. So a lot of the time people will just kind of contest the rune because, you know, you want to get the runes, you want to get the gold and so forth. But what you need to realize is that if you're fighting into heroes that are stronger than you on level 1, and let's say you take a lot of damage at the rune fights, or they just get a much better trade, this is obviously going to have a very big impact on your lane, right? If you're starting the lane with a solve down, or you're starting the lane with lower HP, it basically just handicaps you from the start of the lane, right? So basically what I suggest here is just before the game starts, or even like, you know, pre-laning phase when you're buying your items and so forth, just try to figure out who you're laning against. Just analyze how strong they are on level 1 compared to how strong your heroes are on level 1. If you find that they're probably a bit stronger, like let's say they have an ogre, you know, a very tanky hero, and you guys don't really have the strongest heroes, like you don't really have a clear favor in the trade-in, then often the best thing to do is just to not take this rune. And often what I do as a carry player personally is I will then ask my support to just go top. They play the top rune as 3. A lot of the time this is going to result in your support actually getting a kill, because they're going to be 3 heroes, and in this bracket we can see here people generally don't respect like these sort of rotations. So if your +5 is actually here and they're 3 heroes and they kind of come from behind here, and they can just kind of get a free kill. But the most important thing, even if they don't get the kill, is they're just getting 2 runes, right? So you're trading even. And then obviously your support can either just run bottom, but most of the time they're just gonna TP. It kind of depends on how much you need them. So these are like some of the main things I suggest when you feel like you're not strong enough to contest the runes. Other thing you can do as well is your support can stand here and they can try bait both the enemies to go for this rune, and then it can work vice versa. Like you can be the one baiting, and then you or the support is going to run from here to here and try snipe this rune, right? This is obviously something you've probably seen pretty often as well. That's very common to happen. But often if the mid laner is here trying to get that, it's going to mean that you're not going to get it. But at the same time, this is still not so bad for you, because, you know, Quap getting a very good block against Ember is going to be very good for your mid lane. So you can see how all these things connect, and it's just like very important to always think about this like every game. So we'll get through here a little bit, and then there's another point at the start of the lane I also want to just look at. So we'll see here, he takes a bad trade, he's fighting against the ogre, he ends up trading a bunch of his HP for a bunch of the ogre's HP, but this obviously benefits the ogre because ogre is not the carry, and ogre has a lot of HP regen in the first place. So as we go on here, as we get into the lane, you'll see how this kind of affects the lane a little bit as well. But another thing I just want to clarify here, so we see the start of the lane, right? The lane is in an extremely good position for you as a carry. You don't really want the lane to push in or push into you or push into them at all, right? You just kind of want to keep the lane as is. So the way we should be playing this is we just want to play it passively. We want to deny our creeps, and we kind of just want to hover around here, right? If they aggro, we don't necessarily need to aggro back. We can even pull the creeps back here as well, so that this will come a little bit forward. But the important thing is we don't really want these creeps to come under our tower, right? And the main reason for this is basically we want to be in this tower range with this aura from the tower that gives us 3 armor and 1 health regen for as long as possible. So this is something important to keep in mind, and we'll see here as the replay continues, our PL play here decides to aggro the creeps under the tower. And so most of the time this is a very common thing that's going to happen in lanes, but why is it bad in this situation? So firstly, it's bad because obviously you're pulling the creeps under the tower. Secondly, you're not going to be able to contest this range creep, right? And why aren't you able to do that? Well, part of the reason is because the way the lane started, you took a lot of damage at the run fight. Another reason is our PL play isn't needing tangos. Another reason is that we didn't level Spirit Lance, so we can't just use Spirit Lance to secure the range creep, right? So basically, if we don't have a way to secure this range creep with a spell, or we can't run there and just bully the enemies and take the range creep because they're stronger than us, then we should never really try aggro the creeps back on, like create a situation like this where we aggro their melee creeps onto our range creep, and in turn our melee creeps will go onto their range creep, right? So this is something you just want to keep in mind. This isn't only for the very start of the lane. This applies to the whole laning stage with this little aggro thing, which is something that happens a lot in the laning phase. So it's something you just want to keep in mind and be aware of. So yeah, that's gonna be the first/second point of the video, and we'll be moving on to the next point now. Okay, so moving on to the next point in the video, kind of skipping through the laning phase. In a lot of the previous videos I did speak a lot about the laning phase, and a lot of those things are going to apply to Archon as well. So if you want to see more of that, you can always look at those videos. But another point that I want to cover here, just something that's very important in Dota in general, and it's something you always need to be looking out for as a carry, is this timing, which is 9:30, but it's very close to an important timing, which is 10 minutes, right? So why is 10 minutes an important timing? There's a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's the bounty rune. It's the bounty rune spawn, the second bounty rune spawn of the game. And secondly, the more important reason in my opinion is the catapult spawn, right? So obviously catapult spawn every 5 minutes. The first timing of the game, the 5-minute catapult is normally not that huge, because heroes generally aren't as strong at that point in the game, right? And also the laning phase is normally pretty stable at that point, and people are kind of just laning, and there's nothing really to be done on the map. But as a carry player, this 10-minute timing to us, this catapult timing, is a lot more important than, let's say, the 5-minute or the 50-minute one. And the reason why is because a lot of the time around this 9-minute, 10-minute mark, you're gonna find that it's very hard to like lane against a lot of offlane heroes at this point, right? When they have their level 6 and you have your level 6, a lot of the time they're just a little bit stronger than you. And also, the only thing you really want to be doing at this point is farming, and all the offlaner wants to do is annoy you. So he wants to stop you from farming, right? So a lot of the time it just makes it like not that nice to like lane bottom and continue laning in a safe lane. And you kind of have a few options here. So one of your options is to I mean, obviously sometimes also you're going to have dominated your lane and you're going to have destroyed the lane, and in that case you don't need to care about this, obviously. In that case, generally what you're going to be looking to do is try pressure this tower if you're very far ahead, and this kind of creates situations where you like dominate the game very hard because you just take the whole map. But in games where it's more even, or where you don't really feel like laning in the safe lane anymore, you kind of have two options, right? The one option is to go to the jungle, obviously, and this is normally better for heroes like Naga Siren or even Terrorblade, heroes that like to go to the jungle. Obviously PL is also pretty decent, but a lot of the time, even on these heroes, a really good rotation that you can make is either to the mid lane, to pressure this mid tower and possibly set up a kill on the mid laner around the 10-minute mark. And this play is normally going to be better for heroes like Faceless Void, heroes that actually have like some sort of setup kill or something like this. And then the other option is also just go in top and then just run in at the enemy carry and the enemy carry's tower with your offlaner and normally your pos 5 Azul. So you'll generally be like 4 heroes here. And then basically this creates a situation where the enemy have a couple of options, right? So firstly, you need to first decide if you're going to use your TP to get here or you're going to run here. Most of the time you can do it by just farming through the jungle and making your way there. So you start jungling around minute 9 and then you make your way towards like this, and then around 9 50 you're here, the catapult spawns, and then you start running. Or if you're a bit late, like at this time, you run back to base and then you just TP there to be there in time, right? And generally what's going to happen is either most of the time the enemy are just going to like trade towers with you, and this is fine for you because you just want this safe area, and then what's going to end up happening is your pos 3 is going to go bottom and farm there on the dead lane, and you're going to play, which is going to be your new safe lane, right? And your supports will put vision here, and you can just farm here very safely, and it's a very nice time for you. Some other times, maybe they're going to try to fend it. In that case, they will normally TP like their mid hero or even their offlaner. And in the cases where they TP their mid hero, what ends up happening then is your mid laner can then pressure mid, right? So generally this is just a good timing that I want to point out to you. It's something that's a very like big advantage. You can get a very big advantage out of this if you start doing this and you start being aware of this 10-minute catapult timing and you start trying to take advantage of it. Obviously in some cases you'll be in situations like this where you have like no resources and so forth, and you're not going to be able to make this play. But the more important thing here is I just want to plant the seed, and I want to make sure that you guys start to understand that this is an actual timing, because obviously higher ranks, everyone understands this in the higher ranks, but I think in lower ranks people don't really even know that this is a thing, and it's something that should just be brought to your attention. So now I'm going to be moving on to the next point of the video, and we'll continue here. So see you then. Okay guys, so moving on to the next point in the replay here. One of the mistakes I've seen this player make, and something that I think is very common for lower rank players to make, especially like around the Archon bracket and so forth. Even a bit higher than this, a lot of people make this mistake, and that's basically TPing, putting yourself in bad positions, and also just farming wrong parts of the map, which in result kind of causes awkward map movement as a team, like for your team, and just kind of like not getting as much farm as you could and so forth. So basically at this point we see that the PL is using his TP bottom lane into what is basically the dead lane at this point in the lane, and there's a couple of reasons why this is bad and why you should know this is bad and why you should start to like stop doing this and avoid it, obviously. So firstly, the way he's TPing is very bad because he's TPing in full vision, and there's an Ember here. He could probably jump and kill him if he has spells, but he actually misses his chains here, so he doesn't get the kill. So this is the first mistake here. So this would be the first thing. Be cautious of where you TP. Don't TP in vision, especially if you're lower HP. Secondly, we're TPing ourselves into a position where there's a bit of farm, sure. But the problem with this is you're TPing yourself into a place where the enemy can see where you're TPing, right? So maybe in the Archon bracket you won't get punished too much for this, but if you're in higher ranks, what's going to end up happening in these situations, the enemy will run at you and they will force you out of this area, or they will kill you if you're not aware that they're running at you. So this results in two bad outcomes for you, right? The first is either you're forced to like run from, let's say you farm this camp and then they start running at you, then you're forced to run like this, and you're forced to run around and you waste time not farming. Secondly, they kill you and you die, and that's obviously not good. The other thing is that you're TPing into an area where you have zero vision, so again it just makes it more dangerous, especially when we compare it to top, which is like, compared to this area, right, top top is basically our fountain, right? If we compare it to this area, we have like full vision here. We have a ton of camps here to farm. It's close to our favorite part of the map, which is our triangle, which we can always move to and farm. Whereas if we're farming this area, right, and the enemy run at us, right, while we're jungling here, our option is to now run down here and run all the way around, and we need to like find our place to like run back here or here, right? Whereas if we're farming here, it's very easy to see if the enemy are ganking us, firstly because we have all our vision here. And even if they are running at us, it's a very natural movement to just run into our triangle and farm here, where it's very close, and this is by far the hardest part of the map for the enemy to gank you. Another reason why this is also just bad, and why it like makes map movement like awkward and so forth, is because when you move to this area, what's going to happen is your supports are going to start moving towards this area because they want to play around the carry, or most supports will do this, and they'll probably start placing vision here. And you kind of don't want that to happen, because you don't want to be playing this part of the map, and I'll explain why. Another problem as well with playing this part of the map is the enemy have taken this tower, so they most probably have placed vision here already, which is going to happen in pretty much every game when they take this tower. And we can see here they do have vision here, they have a bit of vision, so we always want to avoid farming our enemy vision. Obviously, because that just makes it very easy for them to run at us. And another problem, and the final problem I'd say with playing this area, is that basically if we ever do take a fight here and we somehow win a fight successfully in this area, we're just very far away from objectives compared to if we took fights here in this area where we have vision and we're favored, right? So as you can see, basically avoid TPing to the dead lane as a carry. There's very few carries that kind of want to farm this area, namely like some of the carries that can do this are heroes like Spectre, if it's safe to do so, sometimes Wraith King. Some other heroes are anti-mage if they have like 0 catch, but most of the time, even on those heroes, you're going to be farming your safer part of the map, and you're only going to start dealing with these waves later on. Most of the time, you'd rather just want your offlaner or your tankiest and hardest to kill hero to play this lane, right? And that would obviously be your Abaddon. So as you can see, you always want to just look out for these map movements. If you start like understanding this better and it just kind of comes natural to you to move into the correct areas, you're just going to win a lot more games. You're going to get out of this bracket a lot faster, and games are going to be a lot easier for you. So it's definitely a very useful tip there that I would say you should start working on. So yeah, moving on to the next tip, and I'll see you later on in the video. Okay guys, so moving on to the next point here in the video. So this video is, this point is more focused on timings. Basically at this point in the game, we see that our Phantom Lancer here has just gotten his Manta Style, right? It's not the best timing on the Manta Style, but it's still a timing that makes him a lot stronger, right? And it makes and generally this means that you're gonna want to go fight the enemy as soon as you get these timings. So basically this is the point, right? As a carry, you need to be very aware at all times that your whole team is playing off your timings, right? Your timings are what dictate the game, and this is generally going to be your item timings. Sometimes you're going to be waiting for a level timing, whatever the case may be, right? Anything that's making you stronger and making it easier for you to win fights and in turn take more objectives, right? So this is something I just want you guys to start being aware of. Start thinking about this. Make sure that you're always aware of it. Make sure that you're the guy that your team is playing around. They're waiting for your item timings. When you get those item timings, you need to be the guy that makes the calls, and you kind of need to try and make some stuff happen, right? So this is just an example in this game, but basically the best time also for you to ever look for these opportunities, there's a couple of things that you need to look for, right? And in this scene, there's a couple of things that tick that box, right? Firstly, we see that they have 2 heroes dead, right? So there's Pangolier dead for 24 seconds, and he obviously makes the team fight a lot stronger, right? Secondly, we see that there's an Ogre dead for 12 seconds, so that's also very good, right? Another dead hero. Thirdly, we have a quick look at our support heroes. We see Witch Doctor has a Smoke to Seed ready, and all the heroes that kind of want to make these plays happen are in a decent position to actually group up right now and then go for a play, right? And the third and pretty much the final point here that just makes it a very good time to go is we literally see, or we're gonna see in like 5 seconds, we see here, we see the enemy carry, right? The Luna farming the jungle, farming the most dangerous part of the map, right? Well, not the most dangerous, but one of the most dangerous parts of the map. Just like our friend PL was earlier when he was farming here, he was farming in their vision. This is why it's so bad, right? Because when the enemy see this is the perfect opportunity to like run at this Luna right now, right? Whenever you start a fight on a carry that's isolated from their team, that's like farming on your vision, you're pretty much gonna always win that fight. Like if you start the fight on this guy and you even don't kill him, you get him down to like 100 HP, there's still zero chance they can ever take that fight. And a lot of the time, if you're able to do that, then this creates more opportunities where you can then immediately run mid, take this tower. Let's say you have a slaughter on your team, then you immediately go to rush, you get rush, or simply maybe it's just you've already gotten this tower, but this guy dies from this rotation, and it means you can shove in this mid lane, you can shove in this top lane, and then by the time these guys have respawned, like the Luna has respawned, they're only gonna feel really confident to play the map at that point, because you can still play very aggressively while the Luna's dead, and when she respawns, all these lanes are going to be shoved into their tier 2s, and that's like literally, you should see that as literally like 2 minutes of free farm for you, right? You're buying yourself time to farm, at the same time slowing down the enemy carry in this situation, right? So it's very important to always look for these plays as a carry. It's very important to always understand that the game by your team is always going to be played around your timings. So always look out for moves to make when you get your timings, when you hit that next item, when you get that level, when you get your BKB and all they do is magic damage, you know? These are all things that are like very obvious. And then when you see things like enemy carries farming on vision, or even if it's a support dewarding like really badly, just go there and just kill them and then just take map control because of it, or just take objectives. And the sooner you start to you start doing this and you start recognizing these situations, the better you're going to get at the game at overall, and you're also just going to start understanding the game better, and your rank is just going to like shoot sky high. So this is definitely a very important tip that like you need to be aware of and always be looking out for in your games as a carry play. It's very, very important. So yeah, that's going to be, I guess, the 4th or 5th tip of the video, and we're moving on to the last 2 at this point. So okay guys, so moving on to the next point in the video, and I'm going to let this one play out a little bit, and then I'm going to explain the point, and kind of the mistake that's happening here and something that you need to avoid, obviously. So here at this point we see Dire team or Radiant team is grouping up here to smoke up. They're on their vision when they smoke up. One of the things you should also just be aware of here, this lane isn't shoved in before they do this, and also they recently showed on this lane. So this is something that's pretty basic that you want to be aware of. Before you smoke, shove in your lanes. Make sure your lanes are being shoved in. That makes it a lot less obvious when you're smoking. Secondly, when you're smoking, there's pretty much 2 ways you should think about it, right? Firstly, most of the time when you're smoking, you want to be smoking onto your vision, like preferably when you like see the enemy, right? It could even be smoking when you see an enemy showing on the lane that you feel like is just going to be a free kill. And if you feel like this opportunity isn't really available, then usually you should just use your smoke to get vision down, right? A lot of the time, if you have like map control like this as well, you can just try get like vision down here, and then you can try sneak a rush. These are all like decent plays to try and make. But for the most part, you just want to keep this in mind when you are going for smoke ganks. And then as we continue here, I'll just point out some of the things you want to avoid doing. And the start here is, okay, so here we see the smoke gets broken at a really bad position for us, right? In vision of all the creeps, instantly the whole enemy team sees what we're doing, and it's pretty much over at this point, right? We can't really go for the kill. Also, not to mention, like I said earlier, this is the safest part of the map for us to farm. This is the safest part of the map for the enemy. You always need to be very, very careful about moving into the enemy triangle, especially without vision. You're pretty much never going to run up this hill if you don't have vision, especially when you don't see any other hero on the map, right? So this is something that's like very important to keep in mind, because you want to make sure you're never doing it. And also the main point here is just when smokes go badly like this, don't be afraid to just call it off and back off. Just because you try to do something and it doesn't work out doesn't mean you need to try force it and make it work, right? Because most of the time, by forcing things like this, it results in things that are bad. And we'll continue the thing here and we'll just see what happens. So he runs up the hill. Obviously he doesn't get punished because they're not here, but he had no idea about that. But still, at this point, it's very bad for us to try take a fight, right? Why is it very bad? Because the whole enemy team just saw where all of us were. We still have no idea where they are, right? They could like, somebody could have wrapped around here. They could be here. There could be some heroes here. We still don't really know how the fight is gonna go. And the problem with this is that if we take a fight like this, it's very easy for the enemies to just target our supports, because they have the position advantage, right? And they have more info on where we are. So we'll continue the thing and we'll just see what happens. So we see the smoke thing failed already like 10-20 seconds ago. For some reason we're just hanging around mid here. We're kind of moving into their triangle and it looks like we want to force a fight. Just keep in mind the game is like even. They are pretty far ahead. They've been winning for like the most part for this game since the laning stage. And for some reason we're deciding to try force a fight in this area next to their tier 2, next to their triangle, right? Okay, we hang around in the area still. It's been like 30 seconds. For some reason we don't grab the DD. I'm not really sure about that. And then we finally decide to take the fight here, right? The fight starts okay, and then they buy back. So this is one of the first reasons why it's like really bad to take fights near enemy objective, like enemy towers and so forth. And you know, like at this point, what the course should be made is that you just want to back off, right? You just use a bunch of spells to burst one hero and then he instantly bought back. So firstly, you should immediately back off here. But secondly, the main point is still like this whole situation is just happening because of basically that smoke and like lingering around here for no reason, right? We hang around here, we continue to fight. And the fight goes badly, obviously, because we use all our spells on one hero, and we also just hang around in a bad area and force a fight in a bad area, right? All that time we weren't really farming either, so we hung around here for like 2 minutes. We didn't really farm much at all, and then we take a fight and it's a bad fight, right? Because we're fighting in a bad position. So this is just like an example of how things can snowball like really badly for you when you just like when you don't follow things like logically and you just make like random plays like this, right? So the main point here is when you're making smokes, try smoke for a reason. Either smoke into your vision or smoke to get vision down to get an objective, or just place vision to try and make plays in the future, right? Don't try force stupid plays running up their heels. Don't hang around in their vision. Don't try fight close to their towers when you're not very far ahead. And for the most part, you know, just try and make logical decisions. And most of the time when you do that, it's just going to be, the games are just going to be a lot easier, obviously. So one of the second last points here, guys, and I'll be moving on to the next point in the video now. Okay, guys, so moving on to the last point of the video here, the final point, and this point is going to be on high ground and also like first Aegis usage in general. This is something that I see in so many replays of like lower MMR games, and I've seen so many games thrown by the way people take high ground and also the way they use this first Aegis. So firstly, before we even look at the high ground push, the first thing I want to mention is this is the first Aegis of the game, and the way this Aegis was taken was through a rush fight, which was pretty like a pretty close fight. But at the same time, before that fight, the Dire were actually quite far ahead. They were like 5k ahead, and then they won a pretty big rush fight, and they ended up winning the fight, and they took the rush. So firstly, like why I'm mentioning this is basically, as the PL in this situation, we should have a good idea that the game is pretty even, right? And then as we got that Aegis, we kind of get a small advantage, obviously, right? Or we get quite a big advantage, but we get that advantage. Sure, after that, then they were able to go top, they were able to get a Rax, and that obviously created a bit of a big advantage, right? But the important thing to realize is still, even when you have the Aegis, and even when you have the like if you have a Rax up or whatever, you still need to like always make sure that you're not like just going overboard, right? When you're trying to go high ground, the only time you can really like dive enemy towers and enemy bases and whatnot is when you're like 40k gold ahead and you're just way too far ahead in items, right? Other than that, even if you have an Aegis, even if you have a Rax, you should still like always be very careful about how you're going high ground. And generally the way you want to approach having the first Aegis is you want to use this Aegis, your first Aegis, to control the map, keep the enemy in their base, and then obviously build a big lead. And then the idea is you build the big lead from that first Aegis, and then from that big lead you have a lot more map control, a lot more net worth, and then you go and you take rush, like the second rush, and then you use that second rush to go high ground. Obviously in your bracket your teammates aren't going to be super coordinated, and this is going to be hard to do, but it's still just something important to keep in mind, right? You just want to have a good idea of how you want to use this Aegis, because when you start thinking like that in these games, maybe you do decide to go high ground, but you're still going to have that in mind, right? And you're not going to just dive, and you're not going to like take really bad fights in really bad positions, and that's all you kind of want out of having this mindset, right? So that's basically the way you need to think of the Aegis timings. Unless you got your first Aegis when you're like 20k gold ahead, then you can kind of just go straight high ground, and you don't need to be too worried, right? You should still obviously approach it carefully, but for the most part, you still want to be careful, right? Even if you're very far ahead. But when the game is even and you do want to go high ground, you feel like you are stronger than them. Sure, that's possible in a lot of games. You're not that far ahead, you have the Aegis, but you still feel like you're very far ahead. If you're not like very far ahead, you need to just slow siege, and in most cases, even when you are very far ahead, you're gonna slow siege anyways. And the reason for this is when you start diving into the enemy's base and you try like initiating on heroes, most of the time you're not going to be able to initiate on the heroes you want to, because they all can hide in the fog, right? Their support heroes, the heroes you want to kill first, are hiding in their fog, and all your support heroes are exposed because you're going high ground, obviously, and their tower has seen vision of them. So for this reason, like, it's very important as the carry, you never like start the high ground push by trying to dive someone. And also you should never try dive or try take a fight in their base before you've taken this tower. It's very important. Or like the tower you're trying to siege, right? So we'll see here, we're going high ground, we start the thing here, and we immediately try go onto this Pangolier, right? And the first problem with this is we could have seen this a lot earlier in the game, because this guy had Aeon Disc for a while. He has Aeon Disc. So that's one thing we should have known. Secondly, we're immediately just trying to go for this Pango, right? We could have just decided to slow siege, but instead, and we could have just been sieging this tower and like forcing them to initiate on us, which would make it a lot harder for them. But instead, we decide to immediately initiate on the first target we see, which obviously in most cases is always going to be the worst target to go on. And in turn, it also means that all our other heroes, right, are also committing now and putting themselves in bad situations, because like I said earlier, around this area, our item time-ins are basically what dictate the game, so we need to kind of make the calls. It's the same throughout the whole game. Whenever you do something in a fight as a carry, your team are going to follow you, and it's pretty much just natural at every rank. When like and also in lower ranks, when like a support hero will start the fight, people also do this. But it's just important to like realize that when you do make these plays, it's often going to mean that your allies are also going to commit to them, and you're going to be putting them in bad situations. So if you ever do try like make initiations like these, you need to make sure that they work out, because we're going to see now we have the Aegis, we still obviously can win the fight, but it creates a situation now where all our teammates committed everything, as well as us committing everything, our Abyssal, and now we see the positioning of all our allies, right? Because we decided to do this. If we decided to just slowly hit the tower and not try commit on a guy like this, and just hit, and then when the creep wave dies, we back off, we wait for the next wave, and then we hit again. By that, we're just sieging, there's no risk, and if they try to initiate on us, it's a lot easier for us to take the fights, because our teammates can kind of can decide how they want to use their spells, because they're not the ones initiating, right? Because they're going to be down here and here instead of up here. So basically, it's just very important to keep this in mind when going high ground. All of these things are very important. You'll see that this high ground push actually ends up in them losing the game. It is a very long game and they end up losing to mega creeps, but it's just a very good example of how being careless when going high ground can just lose games for you for no reason. And it's something that you want to start making sure that you have a good understanding of, because a lot of the time, when I watch these low MMR replays, a lot of games are lost like this, where they're just thrown at the late game for pretty much no reason, because we felt like diving tier 3s at one point, or diving the guy with Aeon Disc, you know? So this is just something that it's very important to keep in mind. You want to make sure you never create these mistakes, because the worst thing about making these mistakes is then after you lose a game like this, you're incredibly tilted and you instantly queue, and then you just lose more games. So you can actually see this as more than 25 MMR loss, right? Because this is the worst way to lose Dota. So yeah, that's going to be my final point of the video, guys. One of the top things to avoid here in the Archon brackets. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.